Hello everybody and welcome to day one of the challenge. Today we're going to be looking at movement and mobility. Most of us do not move the way our bodies have evolved to move. Our modern lifestyle has robbed us of that need to move, but that does not mean it isn't essential for health. Maintaining and restoring joint function is essential for reducing injury risk, reducing chronic pain, and allowing us to safely navigate through life. Cars are going to be our bread and butter for this. Cars are a movement practice in which we take our joints through their full active range of movement, and as our body operates on a use it or lose it basis, it is important that we implement these on a daily basis multiple times throughout the day. You can do these with every single joint in your body, but for now we are going to be looking at the main three joints: your shoulder, your thoracic spine, and your hip. So let's take a look. When performing your cars, the first thing you want to be aware of is that we are trying to move through one joint at a time. So it's beneficial to adopt a body position that allows you to do this. For the upper body, this kneeling position is great because it takes movement through the lower body out of the equation. The second thing we want to be aware of is that we are trying to take your joint through its full active range of movement. So each rotation you do, we want to try and make it as big as you possibly can. So the first joint we are going to look at is your shoulder joint. From this position, I want you to imagine that your arm is a hand on a clock. And as we go through the rotation, you're trying to hit every single number on that clock. So Rachel's going to take her hand up into that 12 o'clock position until she feels a blocking in the back of the shoulder here. The first thing we want to be aware of in this position is that our ribs don't flare. If we go too far, ribs start to flare, and that's movement through the spine, not the shoulder. So to counter that, suck your belly button in towards your spine. So when we feel the blocking in the back of the shoulder here, the first movement we're going to go for is to turn that thumb forward and what we call internally rotate the shoulder. And we're going to continue to rotate the shoulder as we run our arm around that imaginary clock, trying to hit every number, finishing off at 6 o'clock with our thumb pointing behind us and our shoulder fully internally rotated. Reset and then go again. So remember, with each repetition, we want to try and make it slightly bigger than that repetition before and minimize any movement through the rest of the body. 5 reps in that direction, then we go back the other way. So when we move in the other direction, our thumb starts pointing behind us. We push back and up towards the ceiling until we feel a blocking in the back of the shoulder here. Now, because we're moving in the opposite direction, this time we externally rotate the shoulder, and from there try hit 8, 9, 10, 11, finishing up at 12 o'clock, back down to the hip, reset that position with the hand to go again. The next joint we're going to look at is what's known as your thoracic spine, which is the midsection of your back here, an area that becomes very stiff if we spend too much time in this position, driving, on our phone, or at a computer. One thing to note is that a perfectly functioning spine doesn't have huge ranges of movement, so this rotation is going to be much more subtle than the rotation through your shoulder. Something to be aware of as well is as you perform these, we don't want any forward and backward tilt through the hips. We want to focus all of that movement through this area here. So the first thing we're going to do is take our hands across our chest and try and round our back as much as possible. From there, we're going to rotate to our left. When we feel a blocking through our left side, drop that left shoulder and then move back into this extended position. Spend a couple of seconds here because most of our day is spent in this flexed position. So we want to try and optimize our capabilities getting into this extended position. So we should feel that through this section of the back. We then want to mirror that movement on the other side, dropping the right shoulder and then coming back into that forward flexed position. Let's go at an angle so you can see a different angle of that. Go the other way. Go the other way. So that's it. So flexing the spine, rotating. This rotation part is very important. Many people go from flexed to bending and avoid the rotation, but we really want to focus on how your spine rotates. So from that flexed position, rotate, drop this shoulder, slowly back into this extended position. Spend a couple of seconds here. Think about getting the spine as long as you can. Mirror that movement on the other side, dropping the left shoulder, and then back into that forward flexed position, ensuring again that we have no movement coming through the hips. Okay. So now we're going to look at the hip. This position on all fours is a good one to adopt, but what we want to be aware of as we go through the rotation is that we get no movement through the spine and no movement through the arms. If you find that position uncomfortable to adopt with your hands, you can just go onto your fists like so. So imagine you have a full glass of water on your back. As we work through the rotation, we don't want any water to spill out of that glass. So we're going to be working this side here, and as you work your left hip, have about 80% of your weight on your left hand, and vice versa for when you work the right. So the first thing Rachel's going to do is take this left leg off the floor and drive her knee as far towards her elbow as she can without compromising the position of her spine. From there, we're going to lift the knee and ankle out, again without that weight shifting to the other side, and from there, rotate that heel towards the ceiling, keeping the knee nice and high as we do so, getting back into that midline, and then going again. Knee goes forward, out to the side, minimizing any shifts to the opposite direction, slowly rotating at the hip, lifting that heel up, bringing that knee back in to the midline. When we go the other way, it's just the same, but in reverse. Heel goes to the ceiling, and what we want to avoid as we get to here is going too far and causing our spine to extend. So go to the point just before that happens, knee turns to the ceiling, and think about trying to find your elbow with your knee. You may not be able to do that without compromising the position of your spine, but it's just a nice way to cue yourself. So if we go side on, we'll look at how that looks from side profile. So knee drives towards elbow, lifts to the ceiling without any shift in the opposite direction. Ankle and heel rotate up whilst keeping that knee high, bring that knee into the midline, and then driving forward again. The opposite direction, we drive that heel up to the ceiling without compromising the position of the spine. Knee rotates up and drives towards the elbow on that side, keeping it forward as we bring it back into the midline. So my challenge to you is to start to implement these into your day and make them a daily habit. Once in the morning when waking up, and then in the evening before bed. A minimum of 5 in each direction, and remember, the slower you go, the better. Try to adopt a few different positions with these as well, and then share any of those you do in the Facebook group. Thanks for watching today. Tomorrow we are going to be looking at breathing and how we can use it as stress management.